I want to start with a scenario that I see all the time. A founder launches a business. They've got a great name, they've secured the domain, the Instagram handle, maybe even invested in branding. They start getting traction, clients are coming in, word of mouth is building. And then they get an email, a legal letter, saying you don't have the right to use that name. And suddenly their website needs to change, their social handles all need to change, their brand, the thing that people recognise, is gone. Not because the business wasn't good, but because the foundations weren't protected. Welcome back to Elise Explains IP, where we make intellectual property practical and strategic for business owners. Today, we're talking about common trademark mistakes that startups and founders make and how to avoid them before they become expensive problems. Let's anchor this episode with a simple example. We're going to imagine a startup called Brightly, a digital platform offering business tools. That's a great name. It's got clean branding and is growing quickly. We'll come back to Brightly throughout this episode because almost every mistake I'm about to talk about can happen to them. So let's get into it. Mistake number 1, not searching before choosing a name. Brightly launches without doing a proper trademark search. They checked domain name availability and their Instagram to make sure they could get the handle, but they didn't check existing trademarks or similar names in adjacent industries. 6 months in, they discover a registered trademark for Brightly, double E, same space, similar services, and now they're exposed. Trademark conflicts aren't just about identical names, they're about similar spelling, similar sounds, and a similar commercial impression. What does this mean in practice? Even if your name is technically different and ASIC has allowed you to register it, you can still be blocked from registering a trademark or be forced to rebrand. A proper search is not a box ticking exercise, it's risk management. Mistake number 2, confusing business name registration with trademark rights. So Brightly, they have registered their business name with ASIC, and they assume we've registered it. Now we own it. But legally, that's not what's happening. Think of it this way. A business name is like reserving a label in a registry. A trademark is what gives you enforceable rights in the name. Brightly could have a registered business name and be trading publicly and still be infringing somebody else's trademark. This is often the moment that founders realise we built a brand we don't actually own. Mistake number 3, choosing a name that's too descriptive. Let's say instead Brightly had chosen Online Business Tools Australia. So this is very clear, but it's also very descriptive, and it's very weak from a trademark perspective. The commercial reality is if your name describes what you do, competitors can use similar language to you, and you won't be able to stop them. Your differentiation will be eroded over time. Compare Online Business Tools Australia with Brightly. One describes, the other brands. Startups often optimize for clarity early, but long-term value comes from distinctiveness. Mistake number 4, registering your trademark in the wrong entity. Brightly's founder files the trademark personally. Later, they set up a company, they bring on a co-founder, and they want to raise some investment. But the problem is the trademark is owned by the individual, not the business. This becomes a problem because it creates friction around ownership, licensing, and the sale of the business, and investors will often pick this up pretty quickly. What happens next? You're going to need a formal assignment, possibly some tax advice and a legal cleanup, all of which would have been avoidable if you'd structured correctly from the start and filed the trademark in the right entity. Mistake number 5 is filing too narrowly. Brightly files a trademark only for software services, but 12 months later they launch online courses, templates, and a subscription community, none of which is covered by their registration. This creates gaps in protection and exposure to competitors in adjacent offerings, as well as the need for potentially new applications with new dates and new risk. Trademark protection should follow your business model, not just your current products. Mistake number 6, waiting too long. Brightly delays filing because, we'll do it once we know when the business is working. But here's what happens instead. Another business files a similar name and slightly earlier. Now Brightly can't register their brand and may need to oppose the other application or rebrand. Trademarks are partly a timing game. Often it's not about who had the idea first, it's about who formalised it first. Mistake number 7, inconsistent brand usage. This is one that often flies under the radar, but we've talked about it here before. Brightly starts using variations. Brightly, Brightly App, Brightly Co, Brightly HQ, different logos, slightly different wording. Trademark protection relies on consistent use of the mark as registered. If you fragment your brand, you weaken your recognition, you complicate enforcement, and you risk gaps between what's registered and what's actually used. A practical takeaway is to choose one primary brand and one consistent presentation of it, and build your recognition around that. Mistake number 8, ignoring international strategy. Brightly begins to gain traction overseas. They assume we'll deal with trademarks when we expand. But someone else in the interim has registered Brightly in the US. So now Brightly can't use their name there, or they have to negotiate and rebrand. If an international expansion is even a possibility, trademark strategy should be part of the early planning. So if you look at all of these mistakes, they're not about the law, they're about the mindset. Treating branding as marketing instead of infrastructure. But your brand is a commercial asset and a growth lever. One of the most valuable parts of your business can be your intellectual property, and protecting it properly is part of building something sustainable. So here's a few tips. If you're building a business right now, do a proper trademark search before committing to a brand. Choose a distinctive brandable name. Register it early. Don't wait for later. Make sure that the right entity owns it. File with your future growth in mind. Use your brand consistently and think about international markets early. If you're not sure whether your brand is actually protected or you're about to launch a new brand and want to get it right, that's exactly what I help clients with. You can book a strategy call with me via my website, and we can map out a practical and commercially sensible approach to your branding and protecting your brand as it grows. Thanks for listening to Elise Explains IP. If this episode gave you a different perspective on your intellectual property rights and your brand, share it with someone building a business. It might save them from a very expensive mistake. Thanks for spending time with me on Elise Explains IP. If you picked up something useful, hit follow, subscribe, leave us a review, or send it to a founder friend who could use this information. And remember, this is general information, not legal advice. If you do want help with your IP, you can book a strategy call with me at any time via my website. The link's in the description. So until next time, own your own ideas.